Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of Rendezvous with Anza Saqib on CxO Global TV. CxO Global Forum is a knowledge sharing platform for all sea levels across Pakistan and the globe. Every time we've got a special guest with us who has really made their mark in uh, their line of work, and they are one of the influencers in the corporate industry. We also learn from them and we contribute to the knowledge economy. Today, we've got Mr. Furrukh Sohail with us, and he's the Executive Vice President at NorthBay Solutions. Furrukh Saab, thank you so much for joining us.
Ji, thank you for inviting me over, and hello everyone. This is Furrukh Sohail.
So,
Like you, Pranza.
right, thank you. Sir, the thing is that you have had a lot of experience in the industry, and, mashallah, you're now leading one of the leaders at the North Bay Solutions. Where did your journey begin? Where did you go to school? Where did you grow up? What courses you studied? How did you end up becoming the executive vice president at North Bay Solutions?
No, I mean from the one page that we all of us have on LinkedIn, it looks very simple. But like kind of like really, the journey actually started in '86. So that is when I bought my first computer. Uh,
Okay,
this
wow.
this was kind of like
You must have seen the Macintosh machines or whatever. We've seen them in books, but yeah.
I mean, even before that, I mean, you can start with Commodore 64 and all of that, and that is where I started looking at what computers are for. I mean, they were being used for gaming and all that back then, but they were intriguing and interesting enough to entice my interest. And uh, the first program that I wrote was a copy of a Storm series book that I bought off, and I wanted to run it on
Okay.
my computer. So this was without any help and all that. So that had driven enough interest in computers and all of that. But unfortunately, back then, I think there was only one company back then. I think in Pakistan, probably Systems Limited in '86,
Right, right.
and
Systems
and
Limited.
yep, and then we didn't have any computer science programs back then. I think the first computer science program came in. Probably significant one probably came in. I think there were diplomas by many people, but came in Karachi by BC Fast. That's what I remember back then. So that had already driven interest, and then I went to an introductory event at what my alma mater is, UCP. And when I
Yeah.
entered the lab and I saw their IBM machines and all of that, and a beautiful lab and floating floors and to start I feeling all of that, I stayed in that institute. The professors over there were inspirational enough. That is how my education started, and got that done from UCP. Fantastic time over there with all the greats of teaching back then. And then my first interaction with industry started with my internship. So I went to
Where was your first internship?
that was with Techlogic. So I went to Techlogic. Techlogic was I think size 6 or 8. At that time, we had Cresoft, Techlogix, and Xaver and System Limited in Lahore by that time. So Techlogix was very inspiring. We were all hearing about when two guys coming in from MIT, graduated from MIT, coming in Pakistan, doing a lot of fantastic work. So compared to lots of other places, that seemed very very intriguing and interesting again. So I went to them and said, I need to work with you guys. And they said, fantastic, yes, but we don't have spare computer for you. It was
Mm.
expensive machines back then.
Yeah.
You keep like 10 machines extra for the interns, in terms of investment and all of that. So I brought
Mhm.
myself. I'll bring my own machine. So I brought my own machine, started my internship. That is how my first industry interaction started, and from then on, it's been mainly about I would say I've been lucky and in many ways and then the second thing is mentors that take interest in you, right? at
Right.
Technologics.
That's very
Small,
important. Right.
very, very, very small company back then. There was a lot of opportunity to learn a lot from directly from Salman and Kevan and all the seniors that were there. At the second company, my mentor was Zafatika Khan, who also was an MIT graduate, Sloan School graduate, had worked with very large companies like Fujitsu and all, and all of that. Very senior positions, was
Mhm.
country head in Microsoft. So I don't know what they saw in me, but that was my transition into management, and he was mentor over there.
Mhm.
Um, at NorthBay, I would say I was then again picked up to lead the organization by Irfan. So all the toughs of the industry, I mean, these are the guys people want to stay away from. The Fatika Khan, you take his name. If you remember working for from him, they would say, please don't. You want to make your life miserable? Please don't
Work
work
for
for
these people.
these guys.
Right.
But I
Absolutely.
think
So,
these are
yeah,
the guys that contribute the most, right? They give you
they
the
do.
most. They drive you the
Yeah.
most. So I think
So,
it's
Amitabh, you've had a very, very interesting journey so far, and it's been very inspiring. And two, three key points that I noted from this: you should have good mentors, you should be resilient, you shouldn't be afraid to, work for tough bosses because obviously that's where the learning comes in. Um, However, what I would also like to ask you is that you have, mashallah, been in the profession for more than 2 decades. So you have literally, and since you told me about the 80s, and you've seen the evolution of the IT sector in Pakistan, what have your observations been so far? And are we technologically at par with the rest of the world?
I would say that we have top talent in Pakistan and at par with anybody else, given the opportunity, right? If you're not going to give them the exposure and opportunity, then obviously we are going to fall behind. So there are a few areas our guys, when they are exposed to certain things, like the work we started like 8 years back in cloud, and there was nobody else in Pakistan to actually lead that from technical perspective available. So we had to develop our own team. So they had to self learn. So I would say if they could do that, they could do anything. But at the same time, I think we lack a lot. We usually start to think about giving education to our students and the new lot about 5 years late. Right, so we started exposing our guys in the university to mobile and mobile application development and all of that when the whole wave was over. Everybody had already made money, right? And
Yeah.
same is the case with cloud and cloud computing. And look at the world, and it's been in this new dimension altogether for 8 9 years now, and we are just starting to pick that up as an area of growth or area of interest. That is not visionary, um, looking ahead, assessing what forthcoming industry shape is going to be, and then try and adjust the people that we are producing to that. It's just that now, after 8 years, our government is also developing all these different type of training programs that would ramp up our resources. But I think we are a little late as well this time. So there needs to be some change that allows people to look into the future and then plan ahead. And you will have to
So what
unmute.
I also wanted to ask you was that since you talk about this change, one of the recent changes is that the Prime Minister has announced Special Technology Zones Authority. How far do you think this will create a conducive environment for new businesses in the IT sector?
I have not read about where those zones are going to be. If I was reading about technology zones in Bangalore about 8 years back, so what they have is a complete environment in one place. So people that want to work in those areas and zones, you want to attract them to those places. But I don't know what type of driving force for our workforce is where the best education for their kids is, where the best colleges of their kids are. All of these things, and ability to commute those to those places easily. So sitting in Lahore, if for example The special economic zone is going to be in Raivin, who is going to a. Who, I have absolutely, I haven't read that about the locations, but yes, they are giving the tax benefit, but they also have to think about allied facilities, right? So Bangalore has had done like a complete city which has everything in that whole city. They have fantastic schools, they have clubs, they have sports areas, they have colleges for the kids of the people that are going to work over there. Or not only that, you have to announce, you will have to create likes of I don't know HSNs for the people that or LGS over there in those zones as well, and provide enough for them to feel satisfied. Yes, the people that are associated with all the workforce can go in and work from those zones. That's my perspective, but I do not know what those zones mean right now until and unless we see them in brick and mortar and the locations and all of that in combination.
Absolutely, absolutely. Another thing that comes to mind is that, the past year with the pandemic, a lot of businesses made, you know, their sales literally skyrocketed, especially the ones that were in the IT sector, while some businesses saw heavy losses. One thing that was common was that we all had a learning curve, and a lot of businesses who hadn't already done so had to digitally transform themselves. This is a buzzword now.
It
Since
is.
you are, yeah, since you are from the IT sector, so for the sake of the general public, can you explain what it means to digitally transform a business?
I mean, it starts from just providing basic information about what you do as a function, as a government agency, as a department, and I think that started like about 7, 8, 9 years back when everybody now every agency or government organization has a web page where you start providing information about the services, right? And the second stage of what you can call is how we have and biggest digitization I think in disruption I think has been Nadra as an example. That's an end-to-end service, right? Not only although they like many people will have many questions about how they're operating and security and all of that, but besides that fact, look at the size of that digitization project. I mean, you are, I don't know, third, fourth, fifth largest population in the world, and you are actually documenting every citizen in your country, and you keep it their addresses, their phone numbers, and their images and all of that information, thumbprints. You're now utilizing them to actually make sure that when somebody opens up an account in a bank, they can verify who you are. So that is how the digitization starts, right? Just like the Nadra's
Absolutely.
example, you have
Absolutely.
to sometimes go out of the way to start that digitization process. And there have been some good digitizations and then some not so good digitizations. Depends on who is leading that organization from leadership perspective. So I think the best example is Nadra. All the allied functions were defined, right? You have Nadra centers, you have trained people over there. You can go over there and get the cards printed, the printing function in the background. You don't have to worry about whether they're out of the cards or out of the ink and all of that. You get your SMSs. So all of that integration, people, process, technology, all of that fantastically, integrated and now functioning extremely well as a well-oiled machine. It took a long period of time, right? It's not going to happen in a day. So
Right.
every digitization that's starting is starting fine, but I think the government has to figure out where do they want to take it to, right? For example, the digitized economies, the top ones about 7, 8 years back, I think one of them was Singapore.
Yeah,
So everything,
absolutely.
right? So everything is self-service based. So,
Right.
the next stage has to be if I have been to 20 times to another center to get my ID card printed and need a renewal, do I have to go over there and sit in the row and get a new card printed where my image information, all of that, nothing needs a change. So that could be another step. And I think they're doing it. These are the
Right.
examples that you can now relate to other places within smaller organizations as well. As
Absolutely.
to,
So another thing, sorry. Another thing that one, obviously has in mind with regards to digital transformation is that a lot of businesses are now talking about going on cloud or using cloud services, especially since work from home started. Now, with cloud services, it obviously, especially for businesses where there's a lot of sharing of financials and everything, it also makes uh, it creates a greater risk for businesses. How can we adapt cloud services yet keep our network secure? What kind of risks are involved?
I think it reduces the risk.
Okay, how so?
Okay. So when you, for example, go to AWS, they will
Mm.
give you a framework, right? They will give you a
Right,
guideline. They will give you a structure that you should try and comply to. It is not their responsibility to secure all of those things. Make sure the access information and all of that, or the logins and identification and all of that is happening fine, but they still give you guidelines in the form of best practices, in the form of what they call the well architected frameworks, right?
right,
Usually, what I've seen is bespoke in-house applications are absolutely not secure. Most of the passwords that we use are stored uh, in a database column, and 90 people have access to that, right?
right. Absolutely.
Sometimes the applications are not even using encryption to transfer all the passwords and login information over the network and all of that, and they have never been provided a international standard framework or a guideline to comply to. On the other hand, you now have the opportunity to go and try and comply to those international standards and be more secure. So you have guidelines for securing the data on the flight, data in the store. You have guidelines which identification and login and authentication frameworks are best suited for your need. You have frameworks for making sure that if you have 100 applications, there's a single sign-on framework available to you. So there are guidelines available that you can comply to. If you do not comply to the guidelines, then that's nobody's fault other than your own. But all the top and top of the line cloud companies are providing those guidelines, right? Compared to our own engineers devising a way to create a false sense of security, and we see leakages, for example, from our banking institutions every now and then. And there has been one such incident on cloud, and that happened only because an insider provided information to
The
the people,
information.
right? Otherwise, there has not been a breach if people comply to all these very high level of
Yeah,
standards. If
absolutely.
someone, if you post your password on the web and expect everything to be secure,
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense.
right?
So another question that I wanted to ask you was that with digital transformation, a lot of smaller businesses or let's say startups, uh, obviously now these technologies have become the need of the hour. However, just getting an ERP or an SAP or whatever solution um, is expensive. It's not a very very nominal cost. So a lot of times smaller businesses or startups, they have this thing that uh, what are the cheaper solutions available to them and how are they supposed to remain in tune with the market?
Right. I think that there are many now. There are many that fit your size. There are solutions by Microsoft. There are solutions by for smaller businesses. There are solutions by Oracle. There are solutions by SAP. There are solutions by SAP for medium-sized business and all of that. The important question is,
Do you see
if
it as a cost or investment?
that's an investment, that's a
Okay,
major investment, right? So, for
right.
example, if you're a small, and I'm talking in a reference to a friend, and he's using a very small piece of technology to help him. And for example, the realtors in or the real estate agencies in Pakistan. One aspect of that is just being covered by Zameen, but there's another aspect where people have their own client relation, their own social media marketing outside of Zameen, and their own marketing campaigns and all of that. A small, very small ERM functionality that allows everybody to call on a one single function. One of their agents can pick up that call, receive that call, call gets recorded and saved on a cloud, right? And then you can pull that recording and you get a sheet. Right now it's an Excel sheet. The level of digitization for a very small industry, for a very small real estate agent, is they get an Excel sheet, simple Excel sheet, where the customer information, name, their interest, what are they want, what are they trying to buy, etc. information. And then you have now a record being kept of all your possible contacts and customers that you can now sell to, upsell to, cross sell to. Very small investment. I think almost zero investment here. Uh, so this is an example of how what you have to do is try and then match your budget with the solution. That's the most important thing.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
you have to start. If you are a very large organization, you cannot live off, for example, an Excel sheet. You need a larger solution for that. So maybe you can go to as for a CRM on a cloud-based solution like Zoho, and there are a few more. But you
Absolutely.
definitely, everybody who has 30, 40, 50 customers or 100 customers coming in asking questions about products or services they provide, a CRM is necessary. The second thing is, I'm a small company with 5 people in that, and it's a smaller CRM. I don't need to spend a lot of money on getting a Siebel right now.
Right. Thank you so much, Farooq Saab. It's been very insightful, very technical. We didn't keep track of time. We're short on time now.
All
So,
right.
in the end, I would just like to ask you, how has being a part of CXO Global Forum impacted or changed your life personally and professionally?
Oh, number one, I think this is my third opportunity to talk to a very large audience, and vent out on the things that I think should be worked on. So I think that's one thing that this forum provides, allows people who are the leaders of the industry to express what they want to see happening in Pakistan as an example. So I see that a
Right.
lot. Like not only me, but I think the industry leaders are coming in and talking about, and lots of people are listening. So
Yeah.
they will be able to develop and think about what next steps they want to take on to various type of ventures that they need to get into. So that's the biggest, I think, connection that public and the leaders in the industry are now seeing in the form of CXO. So
Right.
that's a big plus, I think.
Right. Thank you so much, Furuk Saab. We would request you to join us next time, hopefully on Saturday, for one of our digital roundtables. So we'll be in touch. Thank you for
Absolutely.
sharing your knowledge, and we hope to look forward to hearing more from you. Thank you, and I hope you have a great day. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being a wonderful audience. If you have any questions or queries, feedback, please write to us. You can follow Furrukh Sohail Saab on LinkedIn and visit cxoforum.global for more information. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Take care.